Many times when you're going through used bookstores and places where a lot of knowledge has been discarded because most people are not reading anymore, when you're doing your due diligence, many times you'll run across very interesting reading material that you may not have come across unless you've been on I would say, the pursuit of knowledge of truth. And on this journey, we run across the odd book that actually has some information, though most of it's dedicated to the illusion of the imagination world of mankind on etiquette. There was a book that was called Amy Vanderbilt's Etiquette. I believe this book goes back to the 1950s, but it's been revised and brought up to date by the writer in 1972 and published. But this book was being discarded out, and so we got it for a reasonable, $1. If you want to save what you probably spent $1 on many times. So hopefully this has gone further than what $1 in value would have done by sharing it with you here. And it's dealing with the subject of heraldic devices. What is a coat of arms? And so when I read it, it's probably the first very, very easygoing explanation, I think, for most people who may not be that familiar with the idea of surnames and coat of arms. So I'm just going to read this word for word out of the book. If you have this book, it's in chapter 47. Heraldic devices. What is a coat of arms? The subject of heraldry is very complicated, and what I shall say here for the purposes of etiquette is necessarily greatly simplified. In the 12th century, the custom arose for warriors to emblazon their distinguishing devices on their shields so that they could be recognized as friend or foe in battle. Armor was, of course, completely concealing when a man's visor was down as he prepared to engage. His device, therefore, became his trademark and was, for further clarity, also embroidered on the sleeveless jacket worn over the armor, hence coat of arms. On his helmet, a warrior wore a crest, say a falcon or dragon, forged to the metal head covering. The helmet itself might be of a distinctive shape and design. Today, a coat of arms consists of 3 elements: the shield with its coat of arms, surmounted by the helmet, in turn surmounted by the crest. To these may be added mantling, symbolic of the flowing cape or cloak, which was attached to the warrior's shoulders, and supporters, which are generally animals, such as lions, unicorns, deer, or even human beings, and the motto on a ribbon. Mantling is mere optional ornamentation, but permission for the use of supporters must be granted by the Herald's College in London, which is the best known authority on heraldry. Some other countries have such governmental heraldic authorities, Holland for one. By the 16th century, many families, other than the descendants of crusaders and knights, bore coat of arms. Hence the term armigerous families, and some merely assumed arms. It therefore became necessary for the Herald's College, or College of Arms, established by law in 1483, to make an official visitation of all the families in each of the shires and counties, recording pedigrees, which deal with animals, and arms. These pedigrees form the basis of the mass of records collected in the College of Arms in London, England. If you are of English, Scotch, or Welsh descent, the college, for a fee, which may run to several $100s, will examine your claim to the right to use a coat of arms. I'm going to stop here for a moment. A claim does not mean title. So you may be claiming a title, but it doesn't mean you have the title. So do not confuse the word claim, statement of claim, to title. Of it, that right cannot be established, it will, for a fee, grant you a new coat of arms. If you are of Irish descent, you may apply to the Genealogical Office, Dublin Castle in Dublin, Ireland. If your family is of Scottish descent, the Lord Lion King of Arms, Edinburgh, will verify your arms or make a new grant. Although in the United States there is no legal governmental authority which issues a coat of arms, because they went treasonous against the crown, if you remember history, or rules upon your right to use a heraldic device, the New England Historic Genealogical Society, 9 Ashburn Place, Boston, Massachusetts, has had a committee on heraldry for many years. The committee will examine a claim to the right to bear arms and the rule on its validity, and if the claim is found to be authentic and the descent from the armigerous immigrant correct, will issue a certificate to that effect. A small fee is charged for the service. However, the committee does not grant a coat of arms or do any genealogical research. Up to 1962, the committee authenticated nearly 800 claims and rejected many more, and published a roll of arms listing those that have had accepted as legitimate. A complete coat of arms consists of a shield with the appropriate heraldic insignia called the charge. I hope you're understanding these words we're using here, because they're telling you exactly how everything that you do in your life is operated. But if you have not listened carefully to what we've read thus far, you may be lost in the confusion of this right now. So listen back on the video on what I've already read, because if you don't have the book, this may be your only attachment to this book for the time being. This may be available online, I have no idea. I have not checked. So it says a complete coat of arms consists of the shield with the appropriate heraldic insignia called the charge. On it, in this example, the chevron is the charge. A crest consists of simply the insignia, generally quite different from that on the shield, surmounting a wreath above the shield, which may be used separately on stationery or silver. A lozenge is a lady's equivalent of the shield and must be used with a crest. Now it goes a little further. To determine your family's coat of arms, you need to know not only the full name of your earliest paternal American ancestor, but his connection with an armigerous British or continental family, and your own exact line of descent from him. If your name is Clark, Smith, Carpenter, all occupational names, or even such as unusual name as Blankenship, Hungersford, or Cobley, you don't merely ascertain that there were coat of arms for these families and proceed to appropriate them for your own use. It may be happenstance that your name is the same. Just by chance. Happenstance. Remember, the court that will try you on all use of name are called the court of chancery. Maybe a court of happenstance. One Miller family said may have the right to use the coat as listed in Burke's General Armory. Another, quite unrelated, could not legally use that coat. Using a coat of arms not rightfully yours is like using another's trademark. Now do we understand? You may be assuming property that belongs to another. And that trademark, you've traded your inalienable right as a Christian to walk into the fictional imagination of a bunch of feudal lords who have made up a name to entrap you into using something that belongs to them, of which you will pay by fee for the use of through licensing. And they need your picture on the license because they need to prove it's you using it. There is no other way. Slam dunked with subscribing under the law, because scribes write the law on this, for those they work for, who are pagans, for using their property in an insurance scheme, which is completely opposite to assurance, which you were assured under your given name, which is a gift bestowed upon you under grace. When you walk into a legal claim, you have to prove your claim. It's based on proof. And if you have no proof, you may be just paying the fee for torting on the property of another, using it. So, back to the final wording in this little paragraph. It says, using a coat of arms not rightfully yours is like using another's trademark, as a matter of fact. Some coat of arms actually are copyrighted in the United States. Now that would require royalty payouts. If somebody's bought the right to that coat of arms, even under eminent domain of the crown, they have the right to dispose of what they have, which is theirs, and used as leverage to obtain credit or someone else's money. So, what position are we dealing with here then in how we're operating? Well, I don't want to hear anybody any further say that I've been defrauded. Because if you were defrauded, you were taken out of fraud. And therefore, once realizing what fraud is, then you shouldn't continue in it. And if these are fictitious names made up under imagination, the same kingdoms that were offered to Jesus in the desert by Satan, for one act of obeisance to Satan, to commit treason against his father, have you not done the same by your consensual involvement? And if you're using the property of another, they can impose under imposture the identity of another, which would be the surname, because it is not the same, it is not identical to you. And therefore that would be fictitious and fraud for you to use it. But they'll allow you to use it as long as you're prepared to pay the fee and the expense that goes with it. I hope that this reading of this very, very simple, available information that I came across not because it was so hidden, it was just a book being discarded at someone's library in a local area that I basically have access to, threw it out, and therefore for $1 I obtained this. So I don't think we want to put an idea of value upon this knowledge in money. It's based on the fact that it was available, and maybe it was because of our lack of due diligence where we're not aware of these facts. So do your own due diligence, again, as we've recommended on the other 59 videos, this being number 60, to the best of my belief and knowledge, on how many videos have been placed out there free of charge to you. And that is the message here. This is pure charity, and we hope that the information that has been bestowed upon us is bestowed upon you to be used for good. I hope this video was helpful.